My name is Eliyahu Yavlon, though I usually just go by Ellie. All right. So I just want to give a little bit of background about myself so you guys can see the vantage point from where this advice is coming from. And like I'll also make comparisons between, different things. So just to give a bit of my background, I guess. I did primes for like 2.5 years. So I got in January of 21, which is when I was a sophomore in high school. And then I carried it out till I graduated in June of 2023. And I did the computer science program. And then I also had some experience with, competitions in high school. So I did like, the classic, like the CS, math, physics. So I got up to the East Coast Silver Division. I qualified for the USA Physics Olympiad and I got a bronze medal in the competition in 23. And I also qualified for the AME. And right now I'm a rising sophomore at Princeton University, deciding whether to study math or physics. Honestly, I'll probably do math, but we'll see what happens. All right. So like just start off, I'll just give some general information about the program, what it is, what you do in it, etc. So it's a year-long research program for students living in the greater Boston area. So that's like around 50 miles outside of Boston. And the reason, it's for people in the greater Boston area is that there's supposed to be a meeting at MIT once a week that you go in and you talk to your mentor about your ideas, et cetera, et cetera. Except when I did it, it was during COVID, so like everything was on Zoom. So I didn't really start going in till like 2023, and at which point like we were mostly done with the program and I didn't need to go in. So I actually barely went into MIT at all. Um, I don't know what their policies are now regarding that. I mean, probably now that COVID is pretty much a thing of the past, they've probably reinstated the weekly meetings in person. Though when I did it, the weekly meetings were on Zoom. Though I don't know. I guess it just depends on the mentor. People can be flexible. And yeah. There are also two tracks in the program. So there's the math track and the computer science track. So obviously in the math track, you do math research, and then in the computer science track, you'll be doing, computer science or computational biology research. In general, in the computer science track, you're usually working in a group project with other people, and generally the research you do is more applied. Like, you'll have to collect data. Maybe you'll need access to special equipment like supercomputers. And the mentor is a lot more involved because of this nuance, because you need equipment, you're dealing with a lot of like jargon and stuff you obviously can't know how to deal with as a high schooler. Whereas the math track is more theoretical, and although I didn't do the math track, from what I've heard and seen, it's more hands off because like all you need is a pencil and paper, and then you can just do your research, and that's it. And you just have your meeting with your mentor once a week, but he doesn't really do much because um, he can just turn you loose to ponder the secrets of the universe. Yeah, so those are some differences between them. And then some more general information and things that like were really confusing for me when I was first applying is that they're like technically four programs that are called primes, like for sure, but they're like completely different. So there's MIT primes, which is what I did, and what you guys are probably looking for. And then, but then there's also called primes. There's a program called Primes USA, Prime Circle, and Prime Step. So Primes USA is for high school students, and it's basically the same thing as a math track for MIT Primes, except it's for kids living in America, but outside the greater Boston area. Um, and there's no prom set to apply. But it's still quite difficult to get in because they look at how well we've done on competitions and other stuff. So you basically just have to get into USMO, which is a pretty high level rank in the math competitions, in order to do Primes USA. But you can only do Primes USA if you're living outside of Boston. And then there's Prime Circle. This is also for high school students. It's not a research program at all. Instead, it's just an enrichment program focused on helping underrepresented groups like female students, minority groups, etc. And there's no prom set to apply. For what it's worth, my sisters did it, and I think they enjoyed it, from what I heard. But I have not done it. And then there's Prime Step, and this is like for middle school students. There's some research, but given the fact that it's middle school students, it's limited. And also, of course, there's enrichment because middle schoolers have a lot to learn. There's no prom set to apply. Instead, you just like take a 1 hour long test at MIT in the beginning of June. From what I've heard positive things about the Prime Step program, though I myself did not actually do it. And this is just like a brief overview. If you want any more information, just look up their website, type in MIT Primes to Google. They should have all the information you would ever want, more information. than I gave. And also before we, end about the general information, I'll just give like a general, I guess, overview of how people liked it, the MIT Primes computer science section and my take on it. So like I know people who like loved it. I know people who like didn't really like it. They found it boring. They found it difficult. They hated it. And I think this really comes down to your mentor because the grad student you get assigned to do research with, like they really set, they really, control everything basically. So if and also the research you have to do has to be in like the department that they're aware of. So like if you wanted to study algorithms, but they're like an machine learning student, you're gonna have to do research in machine learning basically, which is annoying. And also like sometimes the mentor can be a bit too hands off, and they don't help you enough, and you don't really know what you're doing, which can be annoying. Or sometimes they push you too much and make you do too much work. So like, the mentor can really like really decide the experience. I personally had a great mentor. My mentor, Sasha Servan-Schreiber, he was great. He held our hands when we needed to. He let us work things out on our own when it was appropriate. And I ended up learning a ton about math, cryptography, LaTeX, the research process in general, publishing, like all this stuff. And I had a great experience. Though I also know people who did not, primarily because of their mentors. All right, great. So then talk about how to get in. So like you basically just have to solve a problem set. So you have to solve a couple computer science questions and a couple math questions if you're applying to the CS track. And then if you're applying to the math track, you just have to solve a bunch of math. I mean, it's only like 12 math questions, but yeah. So there's a general math problem set, there's a computer science math problem set, and there's an advanced math problem set. If you're applying to the CS, you need to solve the general math problems and the computer science problems. If you're applying to the math track, you have to solve the general math problems and the advanced math problems. In my opinion, and from what I've, seen and heard, the advanced math problems are much, much harder than the computer science problems. Like even if you're, a math person and you're like, oh, I don't really do computer science that much, you'd probably have a better shot at doing the general math problems and the computer science problems, solving that than trying to solve the advanced math problems because they're incredibly hard. They have incredible breadth and depth because they cover a lot of undergraduate mathematics and they have very challenging topics and very deep questions that they ask you on the advanced math problem set. So it's very difficult to get into the math track, in my opinion. And I would bet, in fact, that most people in the math track who doing MIT Primes math would probably be able to apply and solve the problem set to get into the computer science track. But yeah, I mean, that's not to say that the computer science questions are easy. I'm not trying to say like it's easy to get into the CS track. I'm just saying like it's much, much harder to get into the math track, at least in my opinion. So yeah, and it's advisable that when you solve these problems that you should ask, I mean, for the kids out there that are listening or pass the information along, that you should solve every single problem you're asked to solve, even if you can't get an exact solution. Like even if you only get like halfway through or you only get a partial solution, you should still write it down and submit it because it's a problem set and they're looking for the way you think and like how you attack problems. So even if you don't get the answer, like it's not such a big deal as long as you're showing like demonstrating a high mathematical computer science aptitude, like they'll take you. And also you're allowed, because it's like a 2-month problem set, they give you 2 months to solve your problems. You're allowed to use basically any resource except for another human. So you can use graphing calculators, 3D graphic calculators, online Wolfram Alpha, any article in Wikipedia, old posts on Stack Exchange. Even, when you're solving math problems, you can code up your own simulations, numerically solve things, numerically write code to solve math problems, which I found extremely helpful when I was solving the math problem set back in the day. So you should when you apply, you should solve all your problems and also use every resource at your disposal. But of course, you can't ask anyone else for help. You can't ask an adult, you can't ask friends, you can't consult any other living person about the problem set. And yeah, of course, to avoid cheating, when you write up your solutions, make sure you cite where each part is coming from. Like, oh, I got this from this website, I got this from this textbook, et cetera, et cetera. And from what I've seen, the cutoff to get in is like to this computer science track is 80% of the math and 100% of solving 80% of the math problems and 100% of the CS problems. Of course, these vary from year to year depending on the problem set. Like for example, I know in 2022, I'm pretty sure the math problem set was like relatively easy. So you pretty much had to get into your perfect solve to get in. Um, to the general math problem set was very easy. So you had to get like a near perfect solve on that and a perfect solve on the computer science to get it. Um, from what I've heard. When I did it back in 2021, I only solved like 70%, 75% of the math, like 100% of the CS. And that was enough to get in. And as you can see here, here are some sample problems um, for the general math problems. Though, of course, they all have past problem sets on their websites. Okay, it looks like I have a question real quick. Um, so we live in NJ. Are we eligible for MIT primes if we are willing to make the weekly trip to MIT? So I would assume no, because instead, if, I mean, at that point, you might as well just do like Primes USA. Um, though it is true that the Primes USA does not have a computer science track. So if you wanted to do computer science research, yeah, I mean, this would really be a question for like Slava Gurovic. He's a dude who runs a program. So I would just shoot him an email and say like, oh, I'm really looking into I really want to do computer science research with MIT Primes. Uh, but Primes USA doesn't have that opportunity. Could I do it? And they're pretty accommodating though. I don't know. They may force you to just apply to Primes USA, which is the Primes program for people outside the greater Boston area. Um, yeah. All right. Looks good. Okay. Okay. And then, so now I'm just going to go over real quick, whoops, like what topics you should know to do the MIT Primes general math problem set. So you should have like a basic handle on linear algebra and calculus. You don't need to be a master at it at all. Just know how to like take derivatives, take integrals, um, that kind of stuff. Linear algebra, matrices. I mean, a couple of YouTube videos should do the trick. You don't have to be a master on it, but these topics probably will come up. And the thing is, though, is that because you have 2 months to solve your problem sets, you can like learn things on the fly. You can be like, oh shoot, this problem requires calculus. Let me just, watch a couple of videos, do some practice problems, learn about it real quick. Then I can solve the problem. So there's no like rush. So it's like much different than than math competitions. It's much different than the AMC, the AME, the USFO, the FMA, the USACO, because like all these competitions, there's a huge time crunch because you gotta basically know the material backwards and forwards. You have to become a master at it. You have to know all the tips and tricks. You gotta be an absolute speed demon with these topics. Well, it's exactly the opposite for the MIT Primes problem set, where you just have to, you have to understand these topics. You have to understand them on a deep level. You have to be able to, do math at a high level, but you don't have to be fast at all. You don't have to, you can take your time, you can double check, you can look things up. You don't have to memorize anything, which I find it much more relaxing and much more nice. And it's in general, that's like what research math is more like. So I really like that. So even though I wasn't so good at the math competitions, I was able to get into MIT Primes and I was able to do well in the program because, I was good, I like math, I was good at it. I just wasn't quick at it. So I wasn't, cut out for competitions. Um, so yeah. Anyways, and then like a bunch of other topics that you'll cover in school or you'll cover in math competitions like probability and counting to know like I mean if you have you've done some contest math before you should know most of these subjects number theory like sums of squares prime numbers and then there's usually a Euclidean geometry problem though it's not a large part of the primes problem set um and then like there's some more esoteric math concepts so I would recommend just like making sure you're aware of them before, you start the problem set before the problem set gets released, like complex numbers, inequality, the AMGM inequality, Cauchy-Schwarz inequality, like know what a generating function is, Fibonacci numbers. Um, though you can look for yourself at past problem sets and see what kind of questions they ask. Um, but yeah, and most important, I'd say the most important topics are like probability counting, number theory, geometry. Like these are the most probably the most important things. And you can practice these concepts by doing past like like you can practice AMC problems. You can do math competitions. Look at problems from math competitions, and then like practice those. Those are good practice for MIT primes. But because the thing is like there's shared topics between math competitions and MIT primes, except for the MIT primes, there's no time crunch. There's no time constraint at all. Um, so yeah, you can take your sweet time with, doing practice problems and whatever. Yeah. And then for the computer science section, um, just know like big O notation, being able to conduct a runtime analysis, uh, and recursion, and greedy algorithms. The computer science section is usually only like three problems, and it's in general it takes up less time than the general math problems. Um, but yeah, and in general, I mean, if you like, because this is KTBYTE, and KTBYTE has a really good computer science, gives you a really good computer science education. And in general, the computer science section is like one of the easiest parts of the MIT Primes application. Um, the computer science section shouldn't be like bottleneck. And if you've done, plenty of KTBYTE, you've done the algorithms classes and you've paid attention, you've learned, and you've, maybe done a little bit on the side. If you've done KTBYTE's use code prep classes, you should be relatively good for the CS section. Um, so yeah. And then like I'll just share my thoughts a little when it comes to colleges and the MIT Primes program. So it's definitely a big boost. It's not like a ticket into any place. It's not like, oh, like I got into like MIT Primes, now I got into MIT. Like it's obviously false. Um, what level of KTBYTE should you learn for MIT Primes? So I mean, they changed like all the course numbers from my day. So like I don't I don't really know like what any of the numbers are. Like, but so like I would just say like the Usico prep classes are great. So like back in my day that was like CS90, CS91, CS92. I have no idea what the names are now. But the Usico prep classes and also the algorithms classes. Just like doing their out so like what like the basically the upper level classes, like the highest level classes. If you've done those and you've understood them, they're good. The computer science section should be fine. Yeah. Um, so yeah, colleges. So basically, yeah, it gives you a big boost for the college application. The biggest boost I've seen is with Carnegie Mellon University. The School of Computer Science is like really elite. It has like a 5% acceptance rate, and I think it's ranked like the best CS program in the country. And understandably, like I have a lot of friends who actually go to Carnegie Mellon. I'm at Princeton, and I'm comfortable saying that the average computer science student at Carnegie Mellon is much better than the average computer science student at Princeton University. Um, I mean, the kids at CMU are really good. The professors are really good. The classes are really tough, really challenging, really good. Um, and so, MIT Primes is a great boost for that. If you do MIT Prime CS and then you like ED to Carnegie Mellon, you early decision to Carnegie Mellon, you're pretty much guaranteed to get in. Um, so yeah, I mean, that's pretty good. But you know, the important things to consider, like you should get a recommendation letter from your primes mentor. That's really good, reinforces it. And also like the thing about primes is when you do the research, maybe you'll get a publication out of primes. You can put that on your college application. Maybe you'll be able to apply and for some like um high school competition and win some medal or whatever, and you can put that on your application. So like not only like doing primes in itself and being able to put that on an application, but all the things that come from primes, like the rec letter from your primes mentor, the possible award, competitions you can enter and win, and that kind of stuff. I do want to caution people though, because when you look at the alumni list, it's like everyone like there's like something like 45% go to MIT, like 20% go to Harvard, like 80% go to like a top five school or something. And there's definitely a big problem with correlation and causation because a lot of these kids who are doing MIT primes already have like a lot of other big things backing them up. Because to get into MIT primes, you have to be pretty good, especially math primes. So if you're getting into math MIT primes, you probably have a bunch of like 100 other things on your resume that help you get into college. So don't just say like, see like, oh my God, 45% of people who do MIT primes go to MIT. Like that's like, basically a 50-50 chance. That's incredible. Like it's not, there's a correlation causation problem going on. And also people can choose to submit, what college they went to. So some people, if they, didn't get into a good college, they may not submit that to put that on the MIT primes list. In which case, there's a bit of sampling bias going on when you look at the alumni list. But yeah, overall, it is helpful. It is very helpful for getting into college. Like yeah, I'm not gonna lie about it. So yeah, and yeah, that's uh, my 2 cents, I guess. That's all the information I have. Open it up to Q&A if you guys have any questions about anything pertaining to MIT Primes or just in general college competitions. I'll be happy to answer. Yeah. How do I see? Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, Ellie, you can click the Q&A part and see all
Yeah.
the
Oh, I
questions.
see. I see.
Hello,
Oh,
can you hear me?
okay. Yeah. Yeah. I can hear you.
Yeah, I have a question about the computer science part. So you mentioned that a KTBYTE can provide a lot of knowledge, right? But a KTBYTE has a lot of levels, right? Uh from like 4A to 6B, right?
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
wondering on which level can make you feel comfortable with computer science section in the primes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great question. So I don't know so like when I took the classes like back in like when I was taking KT back like a couple years ago, the numbers were all different. So I have no idea what the course numbers are now. I'll just say like the USICO prep classes, the the classes that prepare you for the USICO competition, and also the highest level classes, like the algorithms classes, that kind of stuff. Like basically the highest level classes should prepare you quite well, I would say. But yeah, I mean, yeah, not the lower level classes won't be so helpful because they're more like focused on like getting the basics down with coding, getting the basics down with recursion and that kind of stuff. But I would say the uppermost levels. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Actually, currently no, because my daughter will have core 5B, right? 5B course in this summer, but I don't know whether they will include any algorithm things in the course.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. I mean, just
maybe
I
I
would,
can ask the KTBYTE.
yeah,
Yeah,
you could talk with Katie by asking them. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Ellie, I know the course name when you were taking the course. So
Oh, you know
maybe
them? Okay.
yeah, you can say that and I
Okay.
can convert to the
Like
actual one.
translate. Okay, okay. So like CS90, CS91, CS92, like that sequence. You
Uh,
know what that is?
yeah, so it's basically now it's from USICO Bronze 1 to
Yeah.
USICO Silver 2. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like
Okay.
USICO classes.
Yeah. So like yeah, those classes. And also like whatever CS02B was back in 4 years ago or whatever. Um yeah, CS02B. Do you know do you remember do you know what that class is called now?
Oh, this I don't know.
Okay. Okay. No,
But
no.
yeah, but 施建章, like later you can check with our
yeah, but
um
actually, basically, I think for US code bronze or silver, I think we should finish at least 5B
yeah,
and
after
then
5B.
6A, and yeah, but I will check later. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean just check on the KTBY website. All right.
Thank you.
Okay. When does the application process happen? Um,
In a week, I guess.
wait, say that again?
Is the question asked by someone else?
Yeah, the question, yeah, I'm
Okay.
just reading. Yeah,
Sorry,
I'm
okay.
just reading the
Sorry.
Q&A. All good. Okay. So the application process happens in the beginning of the school year. I think um the prom set gets opened in October 1st, and then it closes November 31st. So you have 2 months to solve it, and then results come out mid-January. Yeah. How demanding is the program? So yeah, I mean it's not too demanding. I mean, really it depends on your mentor. As I said before, so the mentor can work you really hard, uh, they can make it really difficult, or they can, provide a lot of guidance, walk you through things, not make you work so much. I wouldn't say it's too demanding, like I would say only a couple hours a week on average, maybe like 5 hours a week on average. I mean, it can really fluctuate. So like there can be crunch times where you're doing like 10, 15 hours a week, and then there can be weeks where like things are going slow and you like don't even have to work on it at all. That was my experience. But yeah, I'd say a good like 5 to 10 hours a week. Sounds good. What grade level math and then pre-calc level of calculus? So like, yeah, this is school math. School math won't really be so like helpful in like determining the level of MIT primes because like the MIT primes math problems are like very, very far removed from like the kind of math you do in school. Like they're much more, there's a lot more critical thinking involved. There's a lot more depth. There's a lot more topics. I would say like I would compare it more to the math competitions, except, there's no time constraint on the MIT primes application. So I would say like if you can get into Amy, like it's kind of like Amy problems maybe, um, a bit harder. But yeah, like if like being able to get into Amy and like be comfortable with the Amy, I think would be a good level for MIT Primes math. Um, yeah, unfortunately, I have no idea what the admission rate of the MIT Primes program is. Um, I know, I mean, like, yeah, from my school, I know like a couple people got like, yeah, I mean, like of like 4 people applied and 2 got rejected and 2 got accepted. Um, but like it's a very small sample size, and like the kids applying from my school were like pretty good. So I have no idea. I will say though that the admissions rate increases with your year. So if you apply as a freshman, you have a very low chance of getting in. If you apply as a sophomore, you have a slightly higher chance. If you apply as a junior, you have an even higher chance. Because the thing is, they give preference to older kids. So let's say like a freshman and a junior get like basically the same score in the problem set. They're going to go with the junior because the junior only has like 1 year left of high school. While the freshman can apply again and keep on applying. So the admissions rate definitely increases as you get older. So if you get rejected as a freshman, even though you thought you did really well, don't take it, don't take it to heart. Don't be discouraged. Just try again next year. That you're probably being like, because you're a freshman, they're probably like, oh, let's just let him apply next year when he's even better and even stronger, and then we'll take him. Um, um, so how competitive is it to get in? Will someone with UCO Bronze be able to get into the computer science program? Um, so the UCO Bronze is it's a bit easy is I would say easier than the MIT Prime's computer science section. You'd probably want to be at like silver rank or gold rank. The computer science questions are around like UCO Gold levels, except you have 2 months to solve them. You have a lot of time to solve them. Um, so like, in the actual UCO competition, you only have around an hour per problem. But, so I would say that like the MIT Prime's computer science problems are around UCO gold level difficulty. But you have 2 months to solve them. You have the time constraint. The time is like incredibly valuable. But the biggest bottleneck, what I would say, is the math, because like most people can do the computer science. It's not so the computer science is not so challenging compared to the math. Obviously, it's hard, but like when you look at the math problems, they're much easier. So I would focus more on being able to solve the math problems. And if you can do that, you can probably solve computer science one. The computer program does not have any preference for CS language. They say, you can use whatever language you want. Would MIT Primes help with STEM majors other than computer science? Yeah, I mean, I would say definitely, because there's also one thing I glossed over is that they have a computational biology track. So if you want to do like some biology, maybe you can also do like research focused on CS and bio, like a joint kind of thing, which they allow you to do. And in general, it's a great, yeah, I would say MIT Primes does help with other STEM majors because it teaches you a lot about the research process, and it greatly increases your math skills. You get really good with LaTeX, which is very important for a lot of STEM majors. So I'd say yeah. Is it just solving the problems, or do we have to put anything else on our application to Primes? So yeah, you have to get like 2 rec letters from teachers, and then you have to write like a 1-page personal statement, like about why you're applying and why you like math. But those things, and then you have to fill out like information, like where you live, phone numbers, emails. But like, yeah, that stuff takes like a day, like less than a day. Like the problem set is really the meat of the application. You work with MIT. So do we work with MIT students or professors? Um, sorry. You work with MIT grad students. So yeah, I don't think you ever work with a professor. And it's definitely, and it's, yeah, it's just MIT grad students. What level should I get up to before going to Yusuko? I mean, I would recommend at least being in Yusuko Silver before trying to do MIT Primes, CS application. That being said, I don't. I mean, like I did the use like last time I did the use code was like 4 years ago. So I don't know how much it's changed. I've heard it's gotten harder. I've heard it's gotten harder. So in which case you could still be in bronze maybe and be able to do primes. Though when I 4 years from judging from how the use code was 4 years ago, you would probably at least need to be in silver. So yeah. All right, great. So any last question? Any more questions? Okay. If you have USUBO and USUCO background, would I be able to tackle computational biology? How competitive for this application? So yeah, I would say you would probably be able to so yeah, so USUBO, okay, so for the USUBO won't be of any help in the application because the computational biology track has the same exact application as a computer science track. However, when you're doing research, I assume that the USUBO will come in handy. So yeah, I mean the USUBO background is pretty important for the computer science section. Though I want to stress again though that the main bottleneck into getting into that CS track for many people is the math problems. Because the general math problems are very tough, and they're very tough problems, much harder for most people than the CS problems. So that's what I would focus on. So yeah, I would just recommend doing like past problem sets, looking at past problem sets, whatever. Looking at competition math. Competition math is greatly helpful for the math problems on the MIT Primes general math problem set. Yeah. As the USA Primes way more competitive than MIT Primes? What I would say is USA Primes is as competitive as MIT Primes math, the math track. However, there is no I would say the MIT Primes computer science track is probably less competitive than USA Primes. Especially because you know, you can only do MIT Primes if you're in the greater Boston area. So it only selects for you only got a couple million people living in that area anyways. Well, like the USA, the country is 330 million people. I mean, so just looking at it like that, I would probably say, yeah, the USA Primes is more competitive. Though I don't know. I mean, it is exceedingly difficult to get into the MIT Primes math section. And the USA Primes is basically the same thing as that. So yeah, I would say the USA Primes is probably more competitive. So for the computer science track application, how good should our math be? Amy level? Yeah, that sounds good. And not just like where you can I guess barely get into Amy. Like you can get into Amy and do well. That should be good. But you also have to know topics that are not on the Amy. Like I mentioned, calculus, linear algebra, some those fun random things like Bayesian statistics. But the thing is you can teach this stuff. You can learn this stuff on the fly when you're doing problems. So yeah. Oh, sure. Can you share a few examples of what projects were worked on in the MIT Primes program? Sure. So I can talk a little bit about my project. So I did research in cryptography, and basically, what our project is it's called private access control lists for function secret sharing. So there's this concept in cryptography where you have functions that you can plug in numbers and it outputs numbers, whatever, but you want to keep this function secret. So you give some hidden function to one person and some hidden function to another person. And then the whole point is when they come together, they can then reconstruct the function that you shared. So you've kind of secretly shared it to two different people. And then we wanted to impose a further restrictions on this a access control list saying whether you're allowed to share this function. So if I wanted to share this function A with a function X with persons A and B, do I have permission to do that? So then but I still want to keep it secret. I still want to keep the entire function secret. I still want to keep the identity. I don't want them to know that it was me who was sharing this function with them. So we still keep all the same security guarantees. So it was difficult because like if you want to know like, oh, can you share this function? Well, in order to do that, you would classically need to say, oh, I'm sharing you function X. But then by sharing function X, you've revealed the secret. So you want to somehow, share function X among two people such that they don't know what function you've shared, but that they know that you're allowed to share that function. So that's what we did. Then we coded it up. It was like 3,000 lines of code. I was more involved in the math section. I didn't do much of the coding. I was doing like security proofs, like proving that it's secure, reduction, stuff like that. And as it was well, I thought it was interesting, pretty cool. It wasn't like the most like cool, like breaking, cutting edge, cryptography project in the world. Of course not. It was done by high schoolers. But it was cool nonetheless. I know another group that did like they were doing machine learning and they were doing like reinforcement learning. So they were trying to like do analysis on like how to train a model, but like someone's like purposely interfering with the data to make the data bad, and like how a model can overcome that, how machine learning model could overcome that. So like adversarial like learning or something, some other project people did in the Prime CS program. Do the Primes instructors come up with a topic, or do the students come up with a topic? How much help do the students get? Do the students work in groups or individually? So your mentor comes up with the topic. So whatever MIT grad student you're working with, whatever mentor you get assigned, I mean, they kind of determine what kind of topic you'll be working in. So if your grad student is researching cryptography, they're going to have to do a research project in cryptography. Obviously, you have a lot of input in what you want to do. Like, oh, like I read about this and I want to look more into that. Your grad student would be like, okay, sure. Like you also have some input in what you study. And yeah, the amount of help you get, the students get, like vastly, like it varies. It varies a lot. Depends totally on the mentor. The mentor can be very hands off and kind of like just throw you in the deep end, or the mentor could be like, help you a lot. It really depends on the mentor. I know kids who have had mentors who didn't help them a lot. They found the experience very annoying, very, very like stressful and difficult. So, um, yeah, but it really depends. So I guess just hope you get a good mentor. I mean, there's nothing you can really do about it. And the students work in groups individually. So what I've seen is that in the CS track, they work more in groups, like a group of one other kid, two other kids. In general, though, the rule is they work individually. Though the students can, in math, I think they almost always work individually. Then the CS track, more likely to work in groups. Did you publish science fair? So we did publish at the end. We published to IEEE Security and Privacy Symposium. And we did like a small kind of like rinky-dink science fair that was like the Yao Science, I forget what it's called, like the Yao High School Science competition, where kids would do research and then submit the research, and then a panel of judges would decide. Like you'd present your research, a panel of judges would give you medals. So we got like a bronze medal at that competition. But it was pretty low key. It wasn't a super famous one. Not a lot of people did it. But yeah. Did you do anything to prepare specifically for the computer science primes? I did not do anything specifically to prepare for the computer science primes. I had some musical background. I had also done a lot of KTBYTE classes. And in general, over the summer before I applied, I had looked over some problems, tried doing some practice problems by myself. Though the thing is like again, like there's a huge difference between the MIT primes, like admissions and like competition math because of the time you're given 2 months to solve the problem set. There's not a lot of preparation you need to do because you don't need to memorize anything. You don't need to become like super fast. You don't need to be a speed demon at anything. So when you prepare, there's not, it's harder to prepare for the MIT primes, admissions than it is for competition math. Because competition math is easy. You just do like hundreds of practice problems, get really fast, memorize techniques, that kind of stuff. Yeah. Do you have to either choose math or computer science before applying, or do you get to choose after applying? You have to choose before applying. You have to choose which track you're applying to because that determines the problems you solve on the problem set. So you can do like the general math problems and the advanced math problems. You solve those problems, then you're applying for the math track. If you solve the general math problems and the CS problems, then you're applying for the computer science track. You can also apply to both. You can solve like every problem. Though I don't think anyone does that. It's too much time. um, code of honor for problem sets. Um, wait, hold on, did I miss something? Okay, yeah, code of honor. Okay, code of honor for the problem sets. Yeah, basically you just can't talk to anyone else. You can't consult anyone else. So you can't like ask a friend for help. You can't ask an adult for help. You can't solicit help in any way from them. You can't ask help from them in any way. But other than that, anything's fair game. Textbooks, Wikipedia, coding, calculators, whatever. And I will say that it's very unwise to cheat because like I know kids. I mean, I don't know like personally kids, but I've heard of kids who've like gotten kicked out for cheating, because like they go into the program, they had someone else solve their problem set, go in, the mentor's quizzing them, they're trying to do work, the mentor's trying to do work with them, and the kid is like totally unprepared, has no idea what's going on, and it's clear they don't have the mathematical aptitude, they don't have the background to do MIT primes, and then like they can get in some pretty deep trouble, and it can be pretty bad. So yeah, it's in your own benefit to adhere to the honor code. ChatGPT, I mean, I would assume so. I mean, I would email them, I'd ask. Maybe they posted updated rules, but when I applied in 2021, ChatGPT was non-existent. But I would assume that you can use ChatGPT. I would assume so. But I would double check. I would ask them, and I would also look. Maybe they have like a blurb on the problem set saying like whether you can use it or not. Yeah. All right.
Okay, I think the Q&A part is okay. The last question.
Okay, last problem. The last question. If I choose computer science, are computer science problems worth more or are they weighted equally? Yeah, that's a good, I mean, like, it's, I wouldn't say they're like weighted differently. It's just like thresholds. You kind of have to pass on both of them. So like, even if you like get like the most amazing solve on like the computer science problems, if you're not doing well, if you didn't do well on the general math, they're not going to let you in. Um, and vice versa as well. So I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't say they're like way differently. It's just like you just have to like do sufficiently well on both. Yeah. All right. Great.
So
Yeah.
sorry. Thank you, Ellie. And
No problem.
all the parents, like if you are interested in our coding class, so our summer courses are going to start, and maybe you can sign up for the free trial in KTBYTE. Yeah. So if you have any other questions, you can just contact us, send us email, call us, or send us message. Yeah. So
Yeah.
thank you, Ellie.
No problem. It's my pleasure. I'll see you guys.
Bye.